Hello, welcome to the Ice Guys NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs betting show at Sportsbook Review. I'm Ian Cameron, joined as always by my co-host and colleague, Andrew McInnis. And Andrew, congratulations, I should say, on the Puckheads promotion, I guess. I noticed you and Dana Lane, a good friend of mine from Las Vegas, doing that show over the weekend, doing a great job with it as always. So if you're also, that's another thing, check out the Puckheads on a regular basis. That's a great show. But today we're going to do the Ice Guys every Monday during the Stanley Cup playoffs, talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs from a betting perspective specifically. We're down to the conference finals. We've already played 2 games out west, 1 game in the east, and already lots to talk about and break down. Andrew, how have you enjoyed the conference finals this past weekend?
Well, like you mentioned, Ian, there's lots to talk about. I mean, of course, with the Senators taking game 1 in Pittsburgh and just the high-scoring fest yesterday between Nashville and the Anaheim Ducks, it should be a great little show here for us to discuss what actually has transpired here. And really, I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about that Pittsburgh and Ottawa series.
Well, it was a great weekend for the clients and I. A 3-0 sweep this weekend in the conference finals. We had Nashville in game 1 on Friday night. We had Ottawa as a big dog on Saturday night, thinking they could take advantage of Pittsburgh in that after that 7-game series against Washington. Little sluggish, not skating at the level that we expected. And boy, that was definitely on display Saturday night. If you watch that game, we'll get to that in a second. And then yesterday I came with the over in the Anaheim-Nashville game. So great weekend. Put some profits. Put some units in the bank. It was really good to see. But enough of that. Let's go on to the breakdown of these series. Let's go with the West first, since that's the one that got underway before the East one did. Anaheim, Nashville, 1-1 series. Really can't say I'm shocked, Andrew. I mean, if you would have honestly asked me before the Ducks Predators series began, where would we be after 2 games? I kind of thought a split 1-1 is where we would be. I thought Nashville had a very good chance of stealing game 1 of this series. Again, Anaheim, that short turnaround situation after playing the Edmonton Oilers, hard-fought 7-game series, and let's be honest, they got pushed right to the edge of the cliff by that Oilers team. And if not for a Game 5 collapse by the Oilers in that series, are we even talking about the Anaheim Ducks here in the Western Conference Finals? So they definitely did not play their A game in game 1. They didn't even play close to their A game in game 2 in the first period last night. It was another first period domination by the Nashville Predators, but the difference is Nashville gave up that late goal in the first period, 2-1, huge power play goal for the Ducks to really get them back in it, get some life into the team and into the building. And Anaheim played 2 really good periods from that point on and ended up being a 5-3 win. I'll say this right now, Andrew, that was the weakest game by far for Pekka Rinne. We've talked about it. Is the bad Pekka Rinne going to show up at any point? He didn't show up against Chicago. He was stellar against the Blackhawks and against the St. Louis Blues in the first 2 rounds. But boy, he showed up a little bit last night. A couple of those goals, especially that third one, really could have been the Nick Ritchie goal, really could have been and should have been stopped by Pekka Rinne. Just a one-off perhaps, but something to monitor moving forward. Is Pekka Rinne going to be able to bounce back from a game that I thought was clearly his worst of the playoffs?
I spoke with Dana about the difference between actually getting shots on net and dangerous scoring opportunities, where if you look in that first game between the Nashville Predators and the Anaheim Ducks, Nashville outshoots them by a large sum. But at the same time, you're looking at it, a lot of them are just easy pucks to John Gibson. But the biggest thing and the difference between these 2 teams in that first game was just the transition from getting that puck out of your own end and moving forward through the neutral zone. And I feel like the Anaheim Ducks adapt to that slow-paced game. You and I have been talking about that throughout this series, and we can kind of compare this Nashville team to the Pittsburgh Penguins in the sense that they want to push the pace a little bit more than their opposition. And you know, when I say that, I mean they want to get shots from Ellis at the point. They want to get Ekholm, Subban, Yossi going. And I know you've been a fan of Yossi throughout the whole playoffs, Ian, and it's just the little things like the threat. Let's just break down quickly that game-winning goal. There's a bunch of traffic in front of the net in the first game I'm talking about. They sweep the puck out of the boards. Puck goes out to PK Subban. Now, I don't know about you, but if I see PK Subban winding up, I'm going to take that as a threat, and it's going to look pretty intimidating. So an excellent fake slap shot, slides it over to James Neal, and he buries it in for the one-timer and the game-winning goal. So things like that are what really this Nashville Predators team can capitalize. However, on the other end with the Anaheim Ducks, they're kind of getting in the heads of this Predators team. We saw Ryan Johansson didn't have any really nice words to say about Ryan Kessler, and he's kind of getting in his head, and that's really what the Anaheim Ducks have to do. They're playing their game. You look at Ryan Kessler, he kind of did the same thing to Connor McDavid versus the Oilers, and it worked. Watching here on the TV, you notice that he's literally shadowing the best players on the other team, and that is on purpose. Like, that's his job. He goes on the ice when the best players are on, and he goes off the ice when they take their shift off. So little things like that are what really add up. One thing I do want to get your take on, you did mention Pekka Rinne and John Gibson, the goaltending matchup. It's interesting because, like I said, there's difference between scoring opportunities and just fluttering shots on goal. But comparing the two games, what did you really think was the difference between the way the Predators came out in the first period in comparison to the rest of the game? I mean, how did the Anaheim Ducks adjust?
Well, I think what Anaheim did too is Anaheim's really trying to take these points away, the point shot away from this Nashville team. And look, let's be honest, that James Neal goal in game one, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in that situation. You're screwed either way. I mean, if you don't come out and challenge PK Subban at the point there and try to take away his booming cannon of a shot from the point, you're going to get criticized. So they did that. They tried to take away PK Subban's point shot on that play. He just made a brilliant decision to slap pass, fake it, give it to James Neal, who, of course, had all the room in the world to just bury that past John Gibson. I mean, what are you going to do there if you're Anaheim? I mean, you're in a tough spot. You can't leave the points open against a team with a PK Subban on it, a Roman Josi on it, a Ryan Ellis on it. These are all guys that can not just shoot a puck accurately, but hard. I mean, blistering shots. I mean, their velocity and the mustard they put on every point shot is really something to behold. So you're really in a tough spot there defensively if you're the Anaheim Ducks. Well, really, the key to me is nothing more than, I don't know if it's so much what Randy Carlyle or an adjustment he made in game two. I think it just goes back to momentum and energy being driven into that Anaheim team off the 2-1 goal late in the period. I mean, they came right out in that second period. They were jumping. Nashville was a little bit flat-footed, got the tying goal quickly to even the game up at 2. And they were really able to just control the game from that point. And again, they got a couple goals that maybe Pekka Rinne on a better night for him might have been able to stop. John Gibson made the key saves when he had to. And really, they clamped down defensively. Much better. I mean, Anaheim gave up way too many shots, Andrew, in game one. I think you'll agree with me on that. I mean, it was just awful, but they did a much better job. I mean, Nashville put up 46 shots on goal in game one, just 27 shots last night. Much better job defensively by Anaheim. Anaheim and Ottawa kind of mirror images, Andrew, because they both like playing with the lead. They both are much tougher to play against when they have the lead, and they're both capable of shutting it down, just clogging up the neutral zone, suffocating you in terms of not allowing you open ice, not allowing you time and space to make plays with the puck. I mean, it's a very, very similar type of game plan we're seeing here from Ottawa and Anaheim, and two teams that are much better teams when they're playing with the lead rather than playing from behind. But Randy Carlyle drives me nuts sometimes. We've saw him up close and personal here, Andrew, for years as the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the one thing that always bothered me with him was the line match it would to the death. It doesn't matter what the situation. He is matching lines. I mean, I've seen so many times where Randy Carlyle, he puts a line out and then the other team reacts to it. And then he pulls his line out right away. Like, get off the ice. We can't have that matchup. We need the third line or the fourth line or our top checkers out there, whatever. Could you just calm down, let the game breathe? Do you have to be Mr. OCD, Mr. Obsessive Compulsive behind the bench there, get the line matches you always need every single time? Can't you just let the game flow just a little bit? I know line matchups are important to Randy Carlyle and a bunch of coaches in the NHL, but you got to settle down a little bit. And it just causes confusion on the bench. Who's on, who's off. And that's why Anaheim, I've seen them take so many too many men penalties. I mean, there's confusion. It's like, Grand Central Station, trying to figure out what train you're on, or in this case, which line is going to come on the ice or should be on the ice. I mean, if you're Randy Carlyle, I appreciate matching lines. He takes it a little bit extreme. Like, just calm down a little bit. It's just, okay, you can live with 30 seconds with maybe the line you're not expecting or wanting on the ice at the extent of just, confusing your players to the extent that I think Randy Carlyle does with this. But that's him. He is a stringent, strict disciplinarian of matching lines all game long. You see him on the bench just trying to get the matchup every single time. That's Randy Carlyle. You got to take him or leave him.
I want to touch on the two, I call them the two Bergs, Silfverberg and Forsberg. I think they've been playing fantastic, and they're kind of their own little matchup on both teams. They kind of both play the same roles. They're kind of like the underrated goal scorers for both teams that really get things done on a nightly basis. And if you watch the way they play, it seems like the puck always finds them, or they always find the pucky. And it like, again, we're talking about how everyone's always attracted to those points and those point shots. And those guys are able to get in there, especially for Silfverberg, who's kind of a sneakier guy, little quick guy. And like, one thing I want to mention is how Anaheim has won the bulk of the faceoffs. They've won the percentage in both games, especially in game one. They actually dominated in the faceoff dot. And that definitely helps the Anaheim Ducks avoid those huge slap shots from the point from the Nashville Predators. But, moving forward, Ian, from a betting perspective, even though, I've been all over the over, I really do have to wonder how both teams are going to respond after that, how we care to say, goal fest. I mean, I was on the over as well. It's great when you cash an over in the second period, but you have to wonder what's going to happen in game three if they're going to slow things down. I think the neutral zone is going to be a lot more clogged up. Everyone's going to be a lot more tense and a lot more, not just free will firing pucks on net. I mean, look at that game yesterday. It seemed like it was just scoring opportunity after scoring opportunity. Look to see a lot more defensiveness in that third game, and Pekka Rinne will have a bounce back game for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking back at Nashville's playoff run so far. In terms of home playoff games, they are 3-0-2 under the total in 5 home playoff games. 3 unders and 2 pushes, not a single over. So now they're heading back home to Music City, and they're also 5-0, by the way, at home in the playoffs, an undefeated home playoff record for this Nashville Predators team. That's why I still like Nashville in this series. They're fine. They got the split. They got what they wanted out of Anaheim. All they got to do is win every home game, and so far they have won every home game here in the playoffs, and you're going to the Stanley Cup Finals. That's basically all there is to it, and it's not like Anaheim's been looking mighty on the road. Let's not forget how Edmonton absolutely piss pumped them. I mean, in that one game in the West in the second round, 7-1. So Anaheim's been a little bit suspect on the road in the playoffs. Not quite maybe as strong as they've been at home. So we'll see. But Nashville, I like that home rink. I mean, this is a team that I'm going to be very reluctant to bet against at home, Andrew. I mean, this home building at Bridgestone Arena in Music City, it's loud. It is loud. It's hard to believe that Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, is home to one of the loudest buildings in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but it's true. I've heard it. I mean, you can hear Pierre Maguire on the NBC broadcast having to shout because it's so loud in the building in Nashville. I mean, that is a legitimate home crowd. The country folk love their hockey now there. They've got country singers every single home game, basically singing the national anthem, Carrie Underwood, Big and Rich, or whoever I think that's the name, but I'm not a country expert, but I think that's their name. But anyway, the bottom line is Nashville's got a legitimate home ice advantage that I believe, you should bump up the price on Nashville when they're at home, maybe 10 or 15 cents on the money line price, but just based on the fact that their home ice is such an advantage for them. Anaheim's going to have to play a strong, sound defensive game and get that first goal. More importantly, if Nashville gets the first goal at home in these next 2 games, game 3 and game 4, that's not Anaheim's game coming from behind. They're better playing from ahead, and that's going to be the key coming up here. I think Nashville's in a good spot, game 3. That's certainly going to be a side that I look at as we look ahead to Tuesday night in that game. I know we have no lines yet from what I can see for the Tuesday game 3 in Music City, but hey, it's been a zigzag series. I mean, in terms of the sides so far. I mean, Nashville game 1, Anaheim game 2. It's got that sense it could be that kind of zigzag series. So I think I'm going to take a shot with Nashville. My plan is if they look at Nashville game 3, if they don't win, come back with them in game 4. If they do win in game 3, probably stay off them in game 4. But I'm not looking to make a case for Anaheim, even though it would be the zigzag theory in play. I think Nashville's too strong at home. I'm going to look to back them game 3. If they lose, come back game 4 with the Predators. And I still think they win this series in the end.
Well, I'm definitely not worried about this Nashville Predators team after dropping that one loss, Ian. Like you mentioned, now they just have to head home, take care of business. The last score was 5-3. I might speak for myself. I'm not sure if you'd agree, but in my opinion, I don't think Anaheim wants to win those 5-3 games or wants to play in those type of 5-3 games. I think Anaheim's looking to play more of a 3-2 or 3-1 kind of score, because I think the more the Predators build and the more that they see of the Anaheim Ducks, the more they can review film, go over stuff, talk to players, defensive adjustments, offensive adjustments. What does the defense like to do? What side should they dump the puck in? Certain things like that. John Gibson, what are his weaknesses? And as that rolls on, it's going to be even tougher and tougher for the Anaheim Ducks to deal with the speed that's coming at the Anaheim Ducks. Now, one thing that I actually do want to correct myself on was last week I kept on touching on how much of an older and veteran team the Anaheim Ducks were. That's actually a false statement. The Predators are actually an older team overall than the Anaheim Ducks. But when I said that, I was mostly speaking about the stars like Ryan Getzlaf and Corey Perry, and those guys where they're and they're a little bit older. And same with Ryan Kessler. They're a little bit older, so their mindset isn't going to be as much run and gun. It's going to be a more set up the pace, make the right decision, make the smart play, and then win a hockey game like that. So if you're looking at it from that angle, I know a lot of people were on that over last night. You can't really expect every game to be 5-3. So I'm definitely not going to be jumping on the over. So I would be careful on the totals moving on, really judge them. I mean, I could take the under in the next game and it could come back to bite me, but at the same time, I can't expect every game here to have Pekka and John Gibson letting goals in like they did yesterday.
Yeah, like you said, like I said, you got a 3 unders, 2 pushes, no overs yet, and 5 home playoff games for the Nashville Predators. So if you like the under in Game 3 between the Ducks and Predators, you've got that working for you. All right, let's go to the East now. Conference Finals, Ottawa, Pittsburgh. Ottawa with the 1-0 series lead. And that's amazing to me because I don't think I heard anyone except me liking Ottawa in Game 1, let alone winning that series. And Ottawa, kudos to them. The game plan was spot on from the beginning in that 2-1 overtime victory. Slow down the Pittsburgh rush up the ice, clog up the neutral zone. Basically, and Pittsburgh, to me, it really had trouble with that. And I want to go back to an injury that happened in the Washington series, because this has now been for the Pittsburgh Penguins, 3 or 4 games in a row now where I've seen struggles of this magnitude, struggles to get the puck up the ice from the defense to the forwards. And it goes back to the Trevor Daley injury. This guy is not going to move the needle on any money line price. It's not going to move the betting markets at all in any direction, on or against, but he is an impact injury for the Pittsburgh Penguins, a major impact injury. Not only a veteran defenseman, Trevor Daley, but one of the better puck-moving defensemen on this blue line that had already been without one of their top, if not their top, puck-moving defenseman in Chris Letang. So now Daley's out, and this team is just, it's like they're stuck in mud, these defensemen trying to push the puck up to the skilled forwards of Hagelin, Bonino, Crosby, Malkin, Sheary, go on down the list. It is like pulling teeth trying to connect a puck from defensemen to forwards. And this goes back to the Washington series. Like that Game 7 victory, it's not like Pittsburgh was great offensively. Like, what did they generate? They just basically capitalized on the chances they got. Washington outshot them in that Game 7, but they won 2-0 because they capitalized on some of their chances. Braden Holtby all series long did not perform to the caliber that we've come to expect from Braden Holtby. But in terms of just generating sustained forecheck time in the offensive zone, moving the puck up quickly, quick puck transition, and that defense to offense transition that Pittsburgh is known for just killing teams on, non-existent at the end of that Washington series, non-existent in Game 1 against Ottawa, and it's a concern now moving forward. This is a legitimate matchup concern now, because I'm telling you, the teams that struggle, that have the best chance for success against Pittsburgh, are the teams that employ the system and structure that Guy Boucher and the Ottawa Senators put in. That 1-3-1 modified trap, one guy, shielding the puck carrier, 3 guys lined up across the neutral zone, 1 guy back. And it's just basically, you got to chip and chase if you have any chance of getting in the offensive zone, retrieving the puck, getting time in the offensive zone. Too many times Pittsburgh trying to do one-on-one rushes, Malkin trying to be a hero, and all these guys. Crosby even was guilty of it a couple of times. Crosby turned it over on the Bobby Ryan game-winning overtime goal in that game. Ryan just got the puck from him and ended up with that great rush and scoring that goal in overtime. I mean, this is just too much individualistic play from the Pittsburgh Penguins, trying to rush, beat their man That's not the way you're going to attack this Ottawa team, or not the way you should attack this Ottawa team. You got to chip and chase, just get on your horse, get in after the puck, body slam some of these Ottawa defensemen along the boards, get that puck, and then try to get some zone time and get the forecheck going. This is not going to be a rush chance type of series for the Pittsburgh Penguins, especially if they let Ottawa get the first goal, as they did in Game 1. When Ottawa gets that first goal, they set that system in 1-3-1, line it up, and really the Pittsburgh goal that tied it, I mean, they looked like they were on their way to a 1-0 victory, Ottawa, the whole game. The only reason Pittsburgh scored, a beautiful tip by Malkin. Nobody had a chance. It was just one of those, just put your stick, parallel, just in the right spot, slip it through Anderson's 5-hole there. No chance for the goalie. The defensemen weren't really out of position. It was just a good tip. That's it. That's all Pittsburgh was able to get in terms of pucks past Craig Anderson in that Ottawa defense. This, Andrew, I know Pittsburgh, you're going to probably see some adjustments tonight. Let's chip and chase. Let's beat up some of these defensemen here. Let's be a little bit more physical. Let's play harder style of hockey on some of these guys. Phaneuf, Ceci, Carlson, go on down the list. I think that's going to be their game plan. They're going to make adjustments, I'm sure, and they'll play better, but they got to get the first goal. They got to get the first goal. And when you're looking at this game from a totals perspective, I think it's outrageous, the price on Pittsburgh, especially after what I saw in Game 1, especially after what I saw at the end of the Washington series, their inability to get the puck up the ice without Daly, their inability for their transition game from defense to offense to be as strong without Trevor Daly on the ice. There's no way I can lay the price. I understand it's the zigzag bounce back theory. And that's why I'm not going to come back on Ottawa here in Game 2 either. But Ottawa's found a little bit of a matchup edge here, and it's going to be up to Pittsburgh to adjust to it. And from a totals perspective, Andrew, in this game tonight, this is one of those games where you sit back, let the game play out, get involved live betting, in-running betting, or intermission betting. If Pittsburgh gets that first goal, we could be in for a track meet, because Ottawa's got to open it up. Pittsburgh's going to, keep coming at Ottawa, but Ottawa's going to have to open it up, get out of their 1-3-1 shell, and put pucks toward Marc-Andre Fleury. But if Ottawa gets the first, so you may look for in-running over the total, live betting opportunities if Pittsburgh gets that first goal. If Ottawa gets the first goal, we could be in for another one of these 1-0, 2-1, 3-1 kind of games, and Ottawa's just going to try to suffocate Pittsburgh and their transition game like they did in Game 1. So from a totals perspective, maybe not bet the game before it starts. Watch the start of it. If Pittsburgh gets that first goal, maybe you jump on an over, because I think we'll get a more of a wide open game where it'll open up a bit. But if Ottawa gets that first goal, maybe you look in-game under the total, because Ottawa's going to be looking to lock this thing down if they get a lead like they did in Game 1.
Well, looking at those injuries in Trevor Daly and Chris Letang led me to a couple of the points that I made on my Puckhead show, Ian, with Dana Lane. And I had a couple keys to the game for the Senators and also for the Penguins. Starting with the Penguins, one of the things I said was that they have to get the puck out of their own end smoothly. And smooth was a big word that I use, as far as it can't be very hesitant. It can't be a halfway shot to the point. It can't be, just passing to the blue line, hoping to get a tip in. They have to be firm passes, either that or a skate up to the red line, dump it in. I'm sitting here in my apartment, bashing my head against the wall, trying to understand what ended up happening with the whole term of dump and chase. It doesn't make any. Is this team too good? Are they too cute and fancy to be doing dump and chase? Doesn't make any sense to me. Dion Phaneuf back there, he's a pylon. He's not a good defenseman as far as stick handling. A lot of the Senators defensemen, they can't really handle the puck as well. They're very reliant on Karlsson to actually bring that puck out of their own end. So if it's up to me, if I'm Coach Sullivan, I tell them, get that puck deep and exploit them. Get, Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, even Sheary, Gensel, they work well behind the net. A lot of these Pittsburgh goals you've seen all playoffs and even throughout the regular season, there's been a lot of distribution behind the net. One thing I was saying for the Ottawa Senators, they had to contain the Pittsburgh Penguins on the power play. What a job they did of that. I mean, if you look at the power play statistics, you think the Penguins probably should have won that game. You have to capitalize in the playoffs, especially on your power play opportunities, because they come very seldom, and especially on a 5-on-3 opportunity. Another thing I said was Craig Anderson. I think he's a lot like Marc-Andre Fleury, Ian, in the sense that the more shots he gets earlier on, the more he gets warmed up. If he gets a couple easy shots to get him warmed up, That's not really what I'm talking about. But if there's a lot of dangerous scoring opportunities in the very first couple minutes of that game, he is locked in. And when he gets locked in, it's hard to shake him. And it's going to have to be goals like that Malkin goal. It's going to have to be tip-ins. It's going to have to be a rebound. It's going to have to be a screen. I mean, you're looking at that Pittsburgh team on their power play. They have so many superstars, Ian, that they have no one that wants to go in front of the net. There was nobody screening Craig Anderson. It was literally one guy a couple of feet ahead of him, and then just perimeter hockey. If you have, I don't care who you have out there as far as all-star hockey players, if a goalie can see it at this level, they're going to stop it. So I got to take my hat off this Ottawa Senators team. And it's very interesting to me. I've always found the 1-3-1 interesting, and it amused me when you brought it up last week on our show, and I like to hear what you have to say about it. And you really saw it go into effect, and not only just the 1-3-1, but just the way they contained and clogged up that neutral zone of this Pittsburgh Penguins team. And like you mentioned, with Trevor Daley and Chris Letang being out, and the mobility that's kind of lost from this Pittsburgh Penguins team, I do think they'll respond by not just having a quicker game, but just trying to cut out the fancy stuff and just play some gritty hockey. I mean, just because you have the skill, this Pittsburgh Penguins team, there's nothing wrong with getting into those dirty areas, because from what I see from this Ottawa Senators team, they're taking care of business and just playing smart hockey. They're not playing, making too many smart plays as far as advancing through the neutral zone. They're getting pucks deep and making the right play. Bobby Ryan and Jean-Gabriel Pageau. I mean, what kind of chemistry has that turned into, Ian? Where is that coming from? Jean-Gabriel Pageau. I went to an Ottawa Senators game actually versus Pittsburgh. I think it was 2 years ago in the playoffs. And the fans love Pageau. He's a fan favorite. He's from Ottawa, from the area. He's doing great for them. And you have to wonder, Bobby Ryan, he's finally stepping up. Certain players like that. I said to Dana that with this Ottawa Senators team, you sort of have to really rely on those stars. And those are the guys that have to step up. Whereas with the Pittsburgh Penguins, Ian, it can be different players. If Crosby or Malkin don't score, they could still win that game 5-2 because they're that talented of a team. But I'm interested to see what happens. And from a totals perspective, it was very interesting last game because, like you said, if Ottawa gets that first goal, they're not really looking to push that pace. They're a very defensive mindset team. They don't care if they win a game 1-0. A win is a win in the win column. So the total is very interesting for me tonight. Like you said, it's a very good advice with the live bet. I'm kind of stumped with the number, like you said, that we're getting on Pittsburgh. I'd love to take another shot with them, -1.5. But like you said, this could be just a really close game. Ottawa's defense through the neutral zone. We'll see how Pittsburgh responds because they're going to be going over film and talking things over. And I don't know if any of you out there watch basketball, but I think it'll be more of like the Craig Popovich bounce back game tonight. That they're going to go into the video room, go over some film, and it's going to be a whole other Pittsburgh team. So let's see if these guys can be the Spurs right now of hockey.
Yeah, let's see if they can crack the code. And, it's interesting because I think with Pittsburgh puck line -1.5 tonight, it's like the over. If they get that first goal tonight, it's got a shot. If they get that first goal tonight, the over has a shot. But they got to get that first goal. It really is that important. But you know what? The thing is with Pittsburgh, we talked about how much of a nightmare it was for them trying to generate anything against this Ottawa 1-3-1 once they got the lead. How much of it was physical? Obviously, what they didn't do, what Ottawa was doing, and the daily absence. How much of it was mental and upstairs? Because the team was coming off a 7-game grinder against Washington, a bitter rival, a series that everyone was pumping up like the real Eastern Conference final. And they won that series. A little bit of a flat type of effort, perhaps. It's hard to believe you could be flat for a game 1 of a conference finals at home. But it's the mental part of it maybe kick in a little bit for the Pittsburgh Penguins and why they played so poorly, particularly in terms of generating offense in game 1. Yeah, I think some of it is that, but I also think you'd be crazy not to give Ottawa their due for the way they played. They got the lead. They were just stifling at the defensive end of the ice once they got the lead, and I think that's going to be the utmost importance tonight for the Pittsburgh Penguins, scoring that first goal, getting Ottawa to open things up a bit. And actually, you mentioned it, Ottawa's a really defensive-minded team. Yeah, they are when they have the lead, but Ottawa, when they're tied or behind, they don't mind going up and down. They will, actually, because they know they have to. You know, you can't play that lockdown style in a tie game or when you're behind. It's when they're ahead that it's like a totally different type of team. It's like the system goes in play. The 1-3-1 is locked in fully at the time of a situation where Ottawa's got a lead, and then it's just nails on a chalkboard trying to get anything out of them in terms of, up and down and rush chances and trading scoring chances. So that's why I think betting the total in game tonight is the best way to go about it, because you're going to see, I think, a totally different flow of game from a totals perspective, depending on who gets that first goal. And one last thing on this game, Andrew, before we go to best bets, Guy Boucher deserves a hell of a lot of credit here. Let's keep in mind here with this Ottawa team, this is largely the same core of defensemen that was an absolute disgrace in their own end last year. A disgrace, one of the worst defenses in the NHL last year. You just put a little body on them, turn the puck over, they melt, they turn the puck over. Here you go. Here's a free goal for you. Just, bump me off the puck. You got a free goal. There you go. That's how teams played against Ottawa last year. They were soft. They turned the puck over. They were slow. They weren't in good body position. They didn't have good stick position. And it was just a nightmare. And they were just a complete disaster in their own end. They didn't know how to defend, period. End of story. They didn't. They had no clue, none, zero, how to properly defend in the National Hockey League. Now Guy Boucher, all of a sudden, with still the same core, Phaneuf, Ceci, Carlson, Mathot, those four were on that team last year and starting defensemen for that team last year. And to see the difference in that team defensively, and Carlson especially, lauded as an offensive wizard on the blue line, and a tremendous offensive defenseman, but at times a borderline porous defensive defenseman. Has he ever improved at that end of the ice? Phaneuf, we talked about Mr. Pylon. You did, Andrew. Nice nickname, Dion Phaneuf. Even he's been better under Boucher playing this system. Mathot's always been solid, but he has gotten even better. And Ceci's improvement and development has rapidly gotten better as he has as a defenseman under Boucher in this system. Boucher has been fantastic with what he's done. He's gotten a team and a core of players that I thought had no potential whatsoever of buying into a defensive system or playing any sort of solid defense. He's got them doing it, and he deserves a hell of a lot of credit for it.
You know what, Ian, after you and I talking about the overs and this game so much, I'm going to take a small shot here. This isn't my play of the day or anything, my play of the video, but I'm looking at Pinnacle right now, plus 121 for over 1.5 goals in the first period in this Pittsburgh versus Ottawa game. And you know what? I'm going to take a small shot with it because, like you said, I think this Pittsburgh team is going to be angry coming into this game. They're going to be fired up, and they're going to change their tactics. Looking at the Ottawa Senators, again, hats off to them, and they realize, Ian, still, they have to put pucks in the net. They're not going to win every game 2-1. Let's face that. If they won every game 2-1, props to them. Every game that they win 2-1, good for them. But, this game's going to have to pick up a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm sold on taking these complete full game totals, but I'm going to take a little shot here with the first period over 1.5 at the plus 21 line. I think that's just a good number. And why not with these two teams, the way Pittsburgh usually bounces back? I wish I had a statistic in front of me right now to really talk about how Pittsburgh bounces back from a low number of goal-scoring games beforehand. So we'll see how they respond back, but I'm definitely liking that pick in the first period. Maybe not as the second and third period roll on. It'll kind of tighten things up, but this first period should come out firing.
Yeah, you know what? You have a good price on that. There's no question about it. And you know what? That Ottawa did, the one thing that you could say about Ottawa in terms of the luck factor for them in game one is that they flirted with disaster for about the first half of that game in terms of being way too undisciplined, too many penalties. Pittsburgh was on the power play, it seemed, for almost the entirety of the first period and into the second period, and they went 0 for 5 with the man advantage. You don't see an 0 for, especially when you have 5 power play opportunities like the Pittsburgh Penguins had in game one. You don't see that kind of inefficiency from their power play very often. So again, Ottawa does have to clean up the number of penalties they take. They got away with it in game one, but if they take 5-6 penalties and give Pittsburgh 5-6 power plays again, may not get unscathed and end up with a goose egg on the Pittsburgh side of the ledger if that happens again tonight. So again, Ottawa does have things they got to clean up going into game two tonight. Staying out of the penalty box would be an excellent place to start. Yeah, I'm looking at some of these trends. Uh, Penguins 53-25, last 78 games when their opponent allows 2 goals or less in their previous game. So that's pretty good. Actually, 46-22 in their last 68 when their opponent allows 2 goals or less in their last game. So that tells you that Pittsburgh, when they're held down one game, that's a pretty good long-term track record of them being able to bounce back, score more goals, put the puck in the net, and obviously win games. So we'll see if that happens for them in game 2 tonight. But at least after one game, Andrew, Ottawa's making it a little bit interesting here in the Eastern Conference Finals. All right, let's go to best bets for the Ice Guys for this week. I'm going to start with mine. We have no line on this game yet. Anaheim, Nashville, game number 3 at Bridgestone Arena, Tuesday night, May 16th, 8 p.m. Eastern face-off. I'll be on the Nashville side. I'm willing to lay whatever price comes out there. I would expect it to be minus 140, minus 145. I would think it would be something in that range with Nashville as home favorites. A little steeper than I normally lay, but I think it's warranted. They're undefeated at home. That's a great home venue for them. They've gotten tons of energy off of it. Tons of, they play really good hockey, a large part in that building due to the fact the crowd is so into it. They're 5-0 in the playoffs at home, Nashville, coming off the loss in game 2 in Anaheim. I think they return home and get the job done. So Nashville is a home favorite, whatever that price is, my best bet for Tuesday night, game 3 of the Western Conference Finals.
Well, there's a reason that in the NBA playoffs so far this year, Ian, that NBA the home team has done so well, and it seems as well that in the NHL, in arenas like that Nashville arena, the fans are so wild and they're really into it. Unlike in the Anaheim Ducks arena, where they're kind of only in it if their team's playing well and there's a big hit or a fight, this Nashville Predators fan base is in it for the full game. My best bet was actually going to be the Nashville Predators as well. I know we like to diversify things a little bit on this show. I gave away my...
Hey, don't worry about diversifying. I mean, we got two series and 2 games
right.
to go with. Not much you can do, yeah?
Right.
Slim pickings, yeah.
Yeah. So I did give away the first period over on the Pittsburgh versus Ottawa game, and I actually do really like that. I do really think that Pittsburgh's going to come out firing. That should be the highest scoring period in my mind moving forward in this game. So look to see a good start in that Pittsburgh-Ottawa game, possibly small units on the under tomorrow in the Nashville game, like Ian brought up with those stats. And I really do just think it's one of those games where after kind of more of a scoring fest in game 2, they're going to kind of bring the pace down a little bit and settle things in. But again, with this Nashville Predators team pushing the pace, that's the kind of game that they want to play. And realistically, Anaheim Ducks would rather just kind of slow that pace down and play their kind of style and let Ryan Kessler keep being the Ryan Kessler he's been. So definitely I'm on that Nashville Predators team on the money line tomorrow. Again, there's no price out, but I think they take care of business here.
All right, sounds good. Nashville, we're in agreement. There you go. We got double whammy of Nashville best bet recommendations for game 3 in the Western Conference Finals tomorrow night. And of course, we've got game 2 in the East tonight. Ottawa, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh looking to even up the series. Should be a great game as well as the conference finals roll on. That's going to do it for us. We'll be back next Monday with another Ice Guys Stanley Cup playoffs betting show. Believe we'll be at the very tail end of the conference finals next Monday and gearing up for the Stanley Cup finals after that. So join us next Monday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern time with Andrew and I for another Ice Guys Stanley Cup playoffs betting show. Until then, enjoy the games and good luck.